Well, today is Juneteenth. It's an official holiday. Some call it Black Independence Day, but I'm pretty sure the independence was granted in 1863, but that's just me. In recognition of African Americans around the U.S., we took a look at the recent polls to see how Black Americans are planning to vote in the upcoming presidential election. Listen to this.
Biden and Trump among black voters compare where we were at this point in 2020, compare where we are now. You know, at this point, look at this. In 2020, Joe Biden was getting 86% of the African-American vote. Look at where it is now. It's 70%. That's a 16-point drop, John. And more than that, it's not just that Joe Biden is losing ground. It's that Donald Trump is gaining ground. Look at black voters age 50 and older, and you'll see, look, Joe Biden was leading amongst this group at this point by 83 points back in 2020. Now it's 74 points. So, yeah, a slight decline in that margin, but nothing out of this world. Look at black voters under the age of 50. Holy cow, folks. Holy cow. Look at this. Joe Biden was up by 80 points among this group back at this point in 2020. Look at where that margin has careened down towards. It's now just, get this, 37 points.
Yeah, it's way down there. Well, black voters are leaving Joe Biden at an accelerated rate because they are tired of being worse off now than they were before Joe took office. Join me now to discuss this, Pastor Stephen Broden. Pastor, nice to have you here today on this Juneteenth federal holiday. Tell me about your thoughts. My belief is that we should get rid of the hyphen altogether. We should just all be Americans. But that's a crazy idea that I think we should all be on the same team. And that the problem with black voters, the same with white voters or Asian voters, we're just voters. The problem is groceries are too expensive. It's hard to put food on the table. 27% of Americans are skipping meals now to save some money. It's hard to put gas in the car and shoes on the kids. It's tough out there. And I think that's the impact it has on voters. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, male, female, short, tall, doesn't matter. Sir, thank you for being here. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think you're right. There is an economic component to this, but I think something greater is happening here among our people. By the way, I'm excited to see that we're waking up and recognizing that the Democrat Party is not a friend to the black community, has never been a friend to the black community, has always been against the black community, but have bamboozled us and have deceived us into believing that they're for the quote unquote little guy. But when we look at their record, their track record, starting back from Jim Crowism, 100 years of lynching, slavery, all of that comes out of the Democrat Party. And just like today, in 2024, most of the pathologies that are facing our community, the black community and America, is coming out of the Democrat Party, which I believe is a demonic entity that needs to be gotten rid of. Same-sex marriage, abortion on demand, the redefinition of pedophilia to a choice and not a mental illness, making transgenderism a protected class, satanic school clubs. All of these come from the Democrat progressive movement in America, and they're destroying our values. They're destroying religious liberty, right, and we need to get rid of them.
Pastor, I think you're right. And I've been perplexed about a few things in my life when I see people that vote for Democrats in opposition of what is good for them or their family or their community. It's never made sense to me. To me, black Americans are more Christian, more family-oriented as a general rule. They are more conservative as a general rule. And yet, blacks tend to vote 90% in recent elections for Democrats, when really the conservative values are what are the driving principles of more black Americans by percentage than anybody else in many regards. Am I wrong?
I think you're absolutely right. But you need to make a connection between the spiritual bamboozlement, that this is a spiritual warfare. And what we see is that people are being deceived. And by the way, you need to know this, that the largest voting bloc for Democrats in America are the Catholics. Over 52% of all Catholics voted for Joe Biden in 2020. 90% of the black community, which does not equal 52% of the Catholics, those are the two largest voting blocs for Democrats. They have been snookered. They have been bamboozled. They have been led to believe that the Democrats are for the little guy. They're only as for the little guy as long as the little guy votes for them and help them to advance their agenda. It is a
Yeah.
satanic organization, and it needs to be torpedoed. And I believe when
Here's where I
blacks and
saw.
Catholics recognize what's going on, that they will torpedo this evil oligarchy that's ruining our nation.
Sure. I'm going to get your input on one other thing that I circled in my mind that I saw here a couple of weeks ago, and that is black moms in Chicago that are outraged, not by the economics, but by the invasion of their city, where their schools are now having to entertain kids that are 8, 10, and 12 years old that have never been in a formal school, do not speak English, and are taking all the attention from all the resources of that school, be it the teacher, the lunch lady, whatever it is. And that the community centers that have been places for mentors to be and to meet after school and have sports and so forth have been taken away from the community and given to illegal aliens. These black moms in Chicago were absolutely outraged, and I think that could be a turning point. That is something that I circled and said, you know what? That's going to make a difference. Moms, they talk about suburban moms. Usually they talk about white moms in suburban Virginia and so forth. I'm talking about black moms in urban areas. They have made a change in who they support. I'll give you the last word.
They've made the connection. They see that a lot of these pathologies, a lot of these policies, a lot of the legislation that's coming out of major cities like Chicago, Detroit, and Los Angeles are those that are crafted by Democrats. And they're making the connection that the Democrats do not have their best interest in mind, and they're going to vote differently. And that's a good thing. I think at this point, what we're going to try to do as best we can as activists and as a candidate myself is to try to make the connection alive and real and palatable to the community, that there is a definite connection between the pathologies that exist in our community, the ruining of our families. The number one killer in the black community is abortion. Who pushes that into our community? The Democrats. And so we're going to make that connection. And hopefully what we'll see is the destruction of the Democrat Party. We need to get rid of it. It needs to go the way of the Whigs. It needs to go the way of any other party that did not connect with the best interest of our nation. And they don't. We need to get rid of the Democrat Party.
Pastor Stephen Broden, really appreciate you being here, sir. And keep up the good fight. We need all the warriors we can get out there in this battle to save this country, sir, and I appreciate you being one of them. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and we'll be glad to come back again.